Good afternoon to you. Mark Sett of HurricaneTrack.com here. Time for your off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion. Trying to drop the hurricane part, but we still do talk some hurricane stuff, looking ahead to next year's hurricane season, every once in a while anyway. But the main focus of this is the off-season, and we go over some lower 48 weather topics, even a look over in Europe and elsewhere around the globe, just kind of keeping you weather aware, what's in the news, what are people talking about on Twitter, that kind of thing. So it is the off-season, though, and that's that background that you see. Nice wintry scene. We grabbed this image from Jack Sillen. You remember Jack? From his Twitter page. They had some winter weather up in Maine. And so we decided, we asked Jack. He said it was okay. We're going to use his graphic there as our background for today's Outlook and Discussion for December 7th, 2020. All right, so a little bit of hurricane stuff first. Quickly, a landfall map. This was put together by CJ, one of our graphics and Facebook social media helpers, volunteering to help out, to take the load off of me this year, and that has certainly been a big help. The same with this graphic, too, and a lot of other stuff that goes on. Kari over in the UK helping with this, and it's just nice because it allows me to focus on other things. And so what do we got? Well, you've seen the different tracking maps of the big season that we had, 30 named storms, the satellite animations. But it's all about the impacts when it's all said and done in terms of, what really matters. And this is a great example of those impacts. We had Teddy up here as an example, Paulette, the big clustering along the Gulf Coast. And this doesn't show everything. We had Arthur in May. It did not make landfall, but it passed pretty close to the Outer Banks, bringing some impacts here. Subtropical storm Alpha impacting Portugal. Yep, way over on the Iberian Peninsula off the map, over to the east over here, way over there. Eta, though, wins as the most impactful in terms of the most geographic areas visited, I guess, down in Central America, then again in Cuba. Of course, Eta kind of meandered around up here a little bit, too, and then down in the Keys, and then up here again in Florida, including most of the West Coast and the Southwest Coast. And then lots of storms and hurricanes in between. So, yep, just another way to look at, to visualize and look at the very impactful season that we had. All right, so also related to hurricane season, this is something we will be watching very closely every week in the off season. This updates every day. It's always a day behind the way the data gets compiled, but this updates every day now. We used to call it the NOAA-NESDIS Sea Surface Temperature Anomalies Map. Now it's the NOAA Coral Reef Watch Daily 5-kilometer Anomaly Map. Anyway, what does it mean? That's the bottom line, right? Well, these are anomalies, departures from the average, and the blues in here are colder anomalies on the scale. It doesn't necessarily mean that the water is cold. It could be, but it's not necessarily cold. It's just colder than the long-term mean. On the Atlantic side, the water's warmer than the long-term mean, and that's what you're seeing on the scale there. That's the main development region through here. The Northwest Atlantic, significantly warmer than the long-term average. And this is something that we can watch in the off-season, and I will have my eyes on this area especially. The La Nina that is in place, how long does that persist? Do we go to an El Nino next year? We don't know. We don't know the answers to those questions, but this is something that we can take a gander at once per week and just kind of see how things are going. Another way to track all of this is through the Southern Oscillation, the SOI, the dashboard here. Generally speaking, when it's up, like you're seeing now, everything's generally been in the positive range, and there's the zero line right there. It's all been positive. The 90-day has been fairly steady. So it's at a steady state, generally speaking. You can look at it graphically there, and then, of course, in a tabular format here. And when these numbers are positive like this, as they have been, dating back several months, 9, 4, and 9, and then the 90-day average is as close to 8 as you can really get. That's a La Nina signature. So until and unless these numbers start to go down, indicating a pressure change in the Southwest Pacific, where the net flow of air starts to change around. This is basically a very easy metric to kind of see when that might happen. This is a good canary in the coal mine kind of deal that I like to use And for now, it remains positive, and so that means that all of this should stay pretty much status quo for the time being. All right, looking at lower 48 weather, not much going on in terms of any major storm systems. A little low pressure area developing off the Carolina coast, northwest flow of cold air, and some disturbances in cloud cover coming out of Canada, filtering into the Appalachians with some upslope snow on the northwest sides of a lot of those peaks out there along the Tennessee-Carolina border. But once you get west of the Mississippi, look out here. Wow, just remarkably clear. A little bit of a storm system trying to wrap its way into California, and this little low-pressure area will eventually feed into the southwest with just a smattering of rain for portions of Arizona. Unfortunately, places like Las Vegas, you're still going to have a big fat 0 for any measurable precip. It's been since April, yes, April, since they have had measurable rain in the Las Vegas region. There's that winter weather advisory for the Carolinas and the Tennessee border mountain counties down in the Appalachians, some air quality issues out west, in the northwest anyway, and then a few red flag and wind advisories, things like that, for the dry conditions and the generally stable air mass that is in existence over here in the western half of the lower 48. So what does it look like going forward? Let's back it up first of all so we can go forward. Kind of showed you the end of the book there, didn't I? So here's where we are now. A little bit of troughing over the east. Nothing real substantial. It's not bitter cold or anything like that. There's the low pressure area and the storm system off the coast. And then big old sprawling high pressure and nice weather, relatively speaking, out west. So we put this into motion over the next few days. The storm off the east coast continues well off into the Atlantic. There's that little disturbance that tries to come in to the Baja and pulling in some moisture out of the Pacific towards Arizona and New Mexico as a weak storm system comes into the Pacific Northwest as well. And as you see, just not much in the way of precip out there. Then that storm comes into the plains out at about day 5. No big storm systems going out to day 7. So we're out at a week now, December 14th. It kind of just repeats the pattern. There's troughiness in the east, ridging, and some storminess and intermountain snow in the Rockies and you know the other higher elevations, the Olympics out here in Washington, but nothing like news making. No big blizzards, no like travel nightmares, just garden variety early winter weather that's not out of the realm of you being able to handle it if one of these is affecting you, as long as you're aware. And that's what this little update is for, just kind of keeping you on top of things as we go forward. So the same kind of deal exists over in Europe. The pattern right now is similar. Just so you know what's what, United Kingdom right over here. Here's France, and here's the Iberian Peninsula of Spain and Portugal. You got it? There's Italy, just to kind of refresh you on what's what and where's where. And then over here, big sprawling area. Look at that, 1048 high pressure, way over the interior parts of Russia, but not too bitterly cold over points west of there. Even though you do have a large area of general cyclonic flow and troughiness back this way, it's not real cold. It's just kind of miserable, I guess. It's not real warm either. Just kind of stormy. See that? These different storms kind of rotate around, coming into the North Atlantic, off the North Sea and vicinity. But nothing major. Again, it's kind of like the U.S., the lower 48. Nothing that you can't handle. Generally speaking, no big-time wind events, just run-of-the-mill early winter weather, and not bitterly cold either. Even over in Russia, not abnormally, again, like they say, news-makingly cold. Not yet. All right, so what are people saying on Twitter? Let's take a look at that. Ben Knoll, we like to follow him. He's talking about the southern hemisphere cyclone season being underway. And for the last few days, the GFS, Global Forecast System, indicating that the potential for something spinning up over the next few days does exist. Here's New Caledonia. Let's use a color that we can see. New Caledonia and vicinity, Vanuatu up here, Fiji over here, and then maybe a well-defined cyclone. It's just another name for a hurricane. It's in the southern hemisphere, so the wind around it will blow clockwise. Otherwise, it's a hurricane. It's the exact same weather phenomenon, just in a different hemisphere. This is what it looks like going out. Why are all of these advanced all the way out into time? Well, let's just go back and start over. That's fine. Like I said, it kind of gives away the end of the book. So here's the beginning. This is the 12Z GFS from today. Not often that I show you the Southwest Pacific, but there's New Caledonia. Here's Vanuatu vicinity. There's Fiji. Here's Ben's area, where he lives, down in New Zealand. And then here's our disturbance, kind of this trough of low pressure out here, like a monsoon trough. They don't so much get tropical waves out there as they do these little grapevines of low pressure, like I like to call them, these troughs. And they become focusing mechanisms for something to develop. The air converges, and if it persists long enough and the atmosphere and the ocean allow, voila, you get development into a cyclone. This is day 5, and well to the east of Vanuatu and to the northwest of Fiji. Fiji is right here, the Fiji Islands. There's the cyclone right there. And then it kind of stays around out there for the next several days, moves south, gets pretty strong at day 8. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. I'm sure Ben will be tweeting about it from time to time. Ben's influence and the people that follow him, Hudson Valley, where he's from, as well as, since he lives down there in New Zealand, people over the Southwest Pacific like to follow what Ben says, so he'll be on top of that if you want to follow him. Also from Ben, the ECMWF, that's the Euro seasonal update, came out. The bullet points, the highlights, the Pacific North American teleconnection negative, favored for January, February, and all that that implies. We'll get into what that means at a different date. Sustained cold, and that's a big headline right there, or at least a takeaway. Hard to come by of any major sustained cold for the U.S. So, if you like cold weather and storminess and snowiness, that's going to be hard to come by. But, interestingly enough, above normal precip, where? Great Lakes, Northwest, and you can see that highlighted here. We'll look at the map in a minute. Northwest and northern New England, and then in Canada. So let's just look at the map and enlarge it. So these are the precip anomalies. And you got a little bullseye here over the northern tier of the United States. Dry in the southern U.S., generally speaking. All right, so that probably means warm as well. And then above normal precip for the Canadian Rockies, Northwest U.S., Washington, Oregon, Intermountain West, Montana, maybe. And then kind of wet down in portions of the tropics over South America and vicinity. Globally, you just look elsewhere too. Not much change, just kind of average over most of Europe. And then kind of wet in the extreme western Pacific, as you see here. And then that La Nina signal still kind of holding on there, generally dry for the most part. That's what the browns are, below average probabilities for precipitation. And maybe that La Nina tries to fade, according to the Euro. So we'll see. We'll just go back to the tweet from Ben real quick. Wet signal continues. Eastern Australia, La Nina gradually weakens. He said 2020. Nope, it's 2021. It was just a typo. That's all right. Look, we'll go ahead and change it for Ben right now. We'll put a 1 temporarily. There you go, 2021. Maybe that La Nina starts to weaken. I will say this, for what it's worth, and it might be worth a lot. The Euro always likes to go towards a warm ENSO. And you go back and look, you can see the plumes are always warm. Warm, warm, warm. The Euro has this warm bias in its seasonal guidance towards a warm El Nino Southern Oscillation phenomenon. So, the La Nina may kind of back off, but I don't think we're headed for El Nino for 2021. As far as I know, it's never happened that we went from a strong to moderate La Nina directly to El Nino the next fall. And if it's happened, I don't remember it. Certainly not in my career that I can remember. Who knows? Maybe I'm not remembering correctly. Interesting tweet here. I love these from Eric. The way you graphically represent. You have memes, and then you just have metaphors or whatever, and symbolism. That's the word I'm looking for. So first, the meteorology. That's the map here. And generally speaking, the GEFS, that's the Ensemble forecast system, your average, that's what mean in this situation means. You like that? That's what mean means. The average 2-meter temperature anomaly, departures from normal. That word right there, anomaly, very important in weather. In Celsius, degrees Celsius, when from about the 17th of December through the 22nd of December, that's 12 to 16 days out. Look at that. I mean, geez. The GEFS, the Ensemble forecast system, generally suggesting much of the lower 48 above average at the lower 6 meters or 2 meters of the atmosphere. That's where we live, by the way, 2 meters. I don't know too many people that are taller by much than 2 meters. But seriously, this is a warm pattern according to the GFS Ensemble forecast system, meaning golf. If you like golf, it'll be nice and warm, maybe. Hey, this is really neat. Let me introduce you to somebody real quick that I met when I was on Carolina Weather Group. I did an interview with them the other night, and Evan Fisher was one of the panelists. If you know the Carolina Weather Group, they will air that interview soon, and I'll tweet it when it comes out. But Evan Fisher was on there. He's one of the panelists, and we were done. He was telling me about this project where he is trying to study, and doing a darn good job of it, wind gusts, peak winds in Grandfather Mountain vicinity of North Carolina. If you've never been there, it's an amazing area. And he's going back and looking at old data. He's looking at stuff in the future. And he talked to me about it, that maybe, just maybe, I would be interested in helping out with some of the instruments that we have to study hurricanes. And I was like, I took a look at what he was doing. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good. I know that area well. My parents used to live up in Mitchell County, so that, I know the region. And so this past Saturday, Evan went up to Grandfather Mountain, and he took this this picture. Sorry, and you're like, well, why is there a picture of a snow-covered boulder? Well, as it turns out, our anemometer system, and this is a frame grab from some video, just so happens that we could strap that sucker, if we can strap it to large concrete railings of bridges like this one over the Sabine River, the Sabine Pass. This was for Laura. That's Brent's arm and hand and whatever right there. This is Brent's ratchet job. And this is our anemometer weather station. This is a DOT used. It's called a barrier buster. They put these on Jersey walls to put signs up, but we retrofit. I can't talk. So excited. We retrofitted these with this floor flange, a pipe, and then our little box here that has all the computers and the gadgetry in it. That's our pressure sensor. And out of the picture, of course, is the anemometer. But this is the point. These straps right here, right there. Those are some high-end Mac Daddy straps that were crowdfunded, gifted to us. And I asked Evan, when you get up on the Grandfather Mountain again, and it was just happens to be that it was this past Saturday, see if you can find some boulders that we might be able to strap that sucker to. Because if we can get it up there, get that whole system up there, the weather station, and strap it to one of those boulders, and he said there's no shortage of boulders. I mean, come on. The whole place is filled with them. We might be able to help you with your project. So, I'm all in. He sent me this picture and a few others, including some video. And the goal is, when they get a big upslope event, sometime going forward, I don't know when that'll be, Evan will keep me posted. If my scheduling allows, we're going to get a team of us, and we're going to walk several miles. It's like a 3-mile trip up there. And it's cold, it's brutal, it's nasty. And we're going to try to record the highest wind ever recorded on Grandfather Mountain. First, you have to have the event that could make that happen. And then secondly, we got to get the equipment into place. And we're going to do that. We're going to lend this piece of equipment, some of our camera systems, to monitor what happens via camera. There's apparently a good signal up there from Verizon. He says he's able to send pictures and do other stuff, stream live video, whatever. So yeah, that could be really, really interesting. So stay tuned. Again, that is what we are doing in the off season, right there. Staying busy, testing equipment. We can kind of lend it to some winter storm stuff. And Grandfather Mountain, I mean, can you imagine if we were able to put one of those up there? these really good Arm Young anemometers. I mean, those are state-of-the-art. We use them in hurricanes. And the top wind that I have ever measured, just as a little side note here before I sign off, was about 137 miles per hour in a 3-second gust during Hurricane Katrina in Gulfport, Mississippi. Unfortunately, I didn't have a digital data logger hooked up to that, so I don't have a record of it. I can't prove it. You gotta just take my word for it. It was on the Chevy Tahoe back in the day when we had a roof-mounted anemometer. And it was just a very short gust. We had a video camera running. It's a long story. But we noticed on the video that it was 137 miles per hour, and it was a very quick gust. You get these big downbursts in hurricanes, and they usually last 3 to 5 seconds. So that's the highest gust, to my knowledge, that we've ever recorded on one of our Arm Young anemometers was Katrina at 137. The second highest was about 133 during Hurricane Charlie. That was digitally recorded in a data logger. And this will, too, of course, have a data logger when we put it on Grandfather Mountain. So wish us luck, right? Fingers crossed, if I can cross them, that we get to do this. I think it would be really neat to help Evan. He's got a group of guys that are going to help out to carry this stuff up there. And I will keep you posted. That'll be a neat thing to follow in the off-season. Upslope, wind, Grandfather Mountain. Consider it done, I told him. We're going to be there. We're going to do it. All right, so that's a look at the weather, the tropics, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of everything in between. And as always, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it, especially in the off-season. We don't get as many people watching the videos. I don't know why. I mean, come on. It's weather. It should always be interesting. So spread the word. Tell people, hey, check out this video. It's kind of neat. And with everything else going on in the world, it's at least positive, mostly, right? Not much negative, nasty weather. So share it, and let's get the word out on what we're doing, and we'll plow through the off-season together, and we'll have a good time doing it. But again, really, it's important to have you watching for your end of the screen. I appreciate it very much. For HurricaneTrack.com, that's my website. I am Mark Sudduth. That's me. I'll talk to you next Monday, if not before, unless there's something that comes up. Usually there isn't, unless there's a big storm system coming. Otherwise, we will reconvene again next Monday.